So we're switching off from public works to public transportation. And there's pretty exciting news that comes from the Business Record, which is one publication I look at frequently. And I'll put that title on the board for you. Let's see. Public transit creates a buzz. And that's from the December 31st Business Record. DART gained funding for a new state-of-the-art transit hub, for which construction will start in 2011. And then Gunnar Olsen did break that news on the show in the public transportation episode, which was episode 4. And I thank him for doing that, for sharing that with Blue.Green.Fusion first. It's exciting. A potential passenger rail line from Chicago to Iowa City received the necessary funding to get started, which Des Moines leaders celebrated as a major step towards getting service here. And so we've also discussed passenger rail with Gunnar, and then also in other shows, the possibilities. We followed the story where Iowa did receive federal money to initiate passenger rail service here in Iowa. And that's still out for debate, and we'll just have to keep watching the news to see what happens. Public bicycles made their way downtown, with the program expected to be expanded in 2011. Bus service from Des Moines to Chicago was more popular than the provider expected, and the provider is Megabus. And this is weighing in from Dylan Mullenix, Senior Transportation Planner for the Des Moines Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, or just MPO. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come, he says. Okay, DART completed funding. The bus service completed funding for $21 million transit hub, and they received $10 million from the U.S. Department of Transportation, $6.5 million from the Federal Transit Authority, and $4 million through the state's iJobs program. The new facility will ease some of the safety issues that exist at Walnut, providing more space and a more systematic way for buses to enter and depart. There will be climate-controlled spaces where people can stay warm and then cool as needed. And they'll also provide easier access to customer service. Passenger rail, there's some excitement about that. The Federal Rail Administration awarded $230 million to Iowa and the Illinois Departments of Transportation last October. And that was to initiate intercity passenger rail service between Chicago and Iowa City. And then Mullenix from MPO weighed in again. He's confident that bringing the line to Iowa City pretty much seals the deal for bringing the route through Des Moines as well. Realistically looking at it, since it's already funded through the Quad Cities in Iowa City, it's not like it's going to deviate off that path to go around Des Moines. And so according to Department of Transportation estimates, the line from Chicago to Iowa City will divert about 148,000 passengers away from driving, 59,200 away from flying, and 22,200 away from riding a bus, and another 17,200 new riders who wouldn't otherwise make that trip at all. And so there's also a description of Megabus service, and then a description of a bicycle renting program called B-Cycle downtown Des Moines. They also talked about the airport here in Des Moines, and then we've also talked about the airport here on Blue.Green.Fusion. Basically what they're saying is that the prices have gone down at the Des Moines airport for flights in and out. What it doesn't cover, but that we did discuss here on the show, is the possibility of the creation of the Des Moines Airport Authority, and then the addition of Southwest Airlines, and then the debate on how that might affect employees at the connected with the airport. Okay, so that's transportation in terms of moving forward, not backward. But then there's also something that came from the Des Moines Register, the January 5th, from DesMoinesRegister.com. And I'll put that title on the board so you can see that on the camera. State Republican budget could halt proposed passenger trains. So, like we said before, there's so many sides to the same issue. Plans for daily passenger train service between Iowa City and Chicago could be permanently derailed under a budget bill proposed by Iowa House Republicans. The Republican-sponsored budget package would not provide any state money needed to establish and subsidize operations for the route, almost certainly forcing the Iowa Department of Transportation to return a federal grant of $81.4 million already awarded for the passenger train project. And so there are other states that have also debated this issue. Wisconsin and Minnesota, it's come up there in terms of connecting the major cities with passenger rail. And then Iowa Senate Minority Leader Paul McKinley from Carrollton weighed in. He says, I can hire someone to dig a ditch, hire someone to fill it in, and then somebody would claim it creates a job, but does it really accomplish anything? I think that's a question we have to ask ourselves about passenger rail to Chicago. And I don't know if digging a ditch would accomplish anything, but I think laying down tracks and upgrading the existing tracks and then creating the necessary support infrastructure for passenger rail and then actually running the rail and then having passengers ride the rail and then have maintenance on the rail would accomplish quite a lot in terms of employment. And then also the tax revenue from additional transportation options into Des Moines. I think it would bring more people into Des Moines in different ways, just like adding more services at the airport. Adding more services on the ground would bring more people to our city, add to our infrastructure, bring us more forward. Instead of dwelling in the past, we join other cities in terms of access and connections. And so I think it would accomplish those things myself. Governor-elect Terry Branstad continues to study the feasibility of the Iowa City train project and has not made a decision yet on state funding. That's according to a Branstad spokesman. And so that the jury's still out on that. I do know that transportation, particularly rail service, public transportation and rail, do provide quite a lot of jobs. And if it also provides additional access for people to get into and out of Des Moines, bringing their tourism money into Des Moines, we definitely like that. There is a strong connection between Des Moines and Chicago. Strong family connections, strong business connections, and even education connections as college students from Chicago come to Iowa, and then the reverse, Iowa students go to Chicago for their education. So I think it is worthwhile to provide easier access to the major city that's pretty close to us. Okay, and this is going on to jobs from public transportation, on to jobs. And this is an Illinois contractor that submits low bids for a women's prison. This is coming from the Des Moines Register. And that's the title right there. That's from January 5th. And we've addressed this issue several times on the show. Walsh Construction of Chicago is the apparent winner of $52 million in state contracts to expand and upgrade the state women's prison at Mitchellville. Walsh was also the lowest of three bidders for the second phase of site preparation at Mitchellville, offering to do work for $5.3 million. Officials from the Iowa Department of Administrative Services opened bids Tuesday from 6 contractors for general contractor construction work, and Walsh submitted the lowest package at $46.9 million. The next lowest bidder was Lawson and Larson Construction of Des Moines, which bid $48.9 million. Although Walsh is in Illinois, Walton, with the Administrative Services Department, believes the predominant percentage of workers on the site will be Iowa workers. And this is the third major Iowa government project in recent months for which Walsh of Chicago was the lowest bidder, and so they're also the company that won. The other projects are the University of Iowa's Papa John Biomedical Discovery Building, and then also the prison in Fort Madison, which we talked about on the show a few times.